This may be a bit of exaggeration, but snow in Finland in May wouldn't surprise anyone. Technically, I live in zone 5, but our mild winters are quite long. Our growing season is really short, starting late and ending early. Now, weather in summer is really unstable with sudden periods of really cold weather when it's around 10 degrees Celsius during the day and 5 degrees Celsius during the night. It can happen even in July, and we actually never have warm nights, which is required by some crops. So while our fellow gardeners in Southern Europe, for example, harvesting potatoes already, we have just planted potatoes a few weeks ago. And for example, I haven't moved my cucumber and summer squash seedlings outside yet because it is too cold for them. My name is Tanya. I'm a professional gardener from Finland, and today is the last day of May, and I'm going to give you a quick tour on my vegetable garden to show you what I already have in my garden and what do I do to have my crop earlier. And let's start with my raised bed vegetable garden by the river. Let's start with this bed where I have some salads, some lettuce and radish. And those two spaces are left for summer squash. I will plant 2 summer squash seedlings here, and hopefully when summer squash is big enough, I will already pick all lettuce and radish crop. And in my next bed, I have onions and carrots. This is actually a really good example of container planting because carrots helps to chase away the onion pests, and onions help to chase away carrot pests. So they help each other really well, and it's a very good combination tested by my grandmother already. I'm growing onions from seeds, and when I planted them outside, it was quite hot, and some leaves began to dry out. But as you can see, there is quite a new growth already, so I'm not worried about my onions anymore. And in my next bed, I have onions as well. This is a large onion exhibition variety. And also I have a beetroot here. And this net is my attempt to protect my crops from deer and hares. But I suppose they are not visiting anymore. They found something else to eat in the forest. They only visiting in winter, so maybe I can move this net away. And here in this bed I also have beetroots and celeriac. I have made 2 videos on celeriac already, how I started it and how I transplanted it. So if you're interested, I will leave links in description. And as for beets, I didn't grow any seedlings. I didn't start it at home, but I made the seed germinate before I planted them into the ground, and that makes beet grow much faster than it would if you planted just dry seeds directly into the soil. And in this bed I have 3 sweet potato plants and 2 broccolis. And as you can see, sweet potatoes are not doing quite well because This is a warm loving plant, and we had quite a warm weeks before, but now it's cold, and we even had a hail, and you can see the damage from the hail on the sweet potatoes. And I must admit that actually sweet potatoes are not doing quite well in Finland, but I just love sweet potatoes. I love experimenting, and hopefully I still can have some crop, because this is a raised bed, and it is technically warmer than just a regular vegetable bed, and it is exposed to the sunshine through the whole day. Hopefully, if the summer is warm enough, I will have some sweet potatoes in the fall. And this is another raised bed with peas, salads, lettuce, and an early variety of carrots. And the rest two beds are left for cucumbers, and also I have some cauliflower and cabbage here. And this is also an herb. It's not a weed. This is called Lovage, and I am so in love with this plant actually. I'm planning to make a video dedicated specifically to this plant. This herb is perennial, and it has a really specific taste. You either love it or hate it, as the name suggests, lovage. I love it. And it reminds me of my childhood because my grandmom had it in a garden. And I spent a lot of time trying to find it because it's not common in the modern gardens. And here it is. It was growing here when I bought this property. And now let's visit my greenhouse. Let's see what's in there. By the way, here I have some Chinese cabbage bok choy, and my idea was to plant it really early to move it to the greenhouse, because this is a cold loving plant. But our May was unusually warm, and as you can see, it started bolting already, which it shouldn't have done this early. But it started bolting, and I had to move it outside because it was too hot for it in a greenhouse. And outside it became an outside crucifer flea bees attacked it. So I guess I will pick it up today. But it still has a good taste, although it didn't quite mature, but it still tastes good. And now let's move into the greenhouse. I have moved some of my containers inside because, as I said before, it is quite cold now. And I have some beans and peppers and tomato containers here, which I'm planning to move outside as soon as weather allows. And here I have my tomatoes. I also have a video on my channel where I'm showing you how I was transplanting them outside. They were already overgrown. I even decided that next year I will plant them. I will start them indoors maybe a week later than I did this year. But anyway, I already have some small green tomatoes, which is quite unusual for a May, because usually we have tomatoes in July. But as you can see, here I have some tomatoes already, and especially determined tomatoes. They started producing quite early, and hopefully they will turn red. And I guess I have yellow variety as well. Those two are yellow varieties, and this is probably red. As you can see, I didn't mark my pots, so well, I will see when they when they are ready. Here in a hanging pot, I have a beans. This is a decorative and at the same time eatable variety called Hastia, if I'm correct. This is variety that blooms beautifully and produces green beans, eatable green beans. Beans are warm-loving plants, so placing it in container in hanging basket in a greenhouse, I guess it was a good idea for beans. And here I have some eggplants and some bell peppers, some sweet bell peppers. And this year they are doing really well. Usually these warm loving plants not doing well in Finland, even in a greenhouse. But this year, as you can see, some of eggplants already started blooming. So hopefully I will have some crop later. And between tomatoes, I have a basil and cilantro. Here I have a cilantro, but cilantro started bolting as well because it was too hot for it in a greenhouse, I suppose. But I'm eating it. I'm putting it in my salads and into my salsa already. So I'm not. I don't think it was a bad idea to plant it in a greenhouse anyway. I will plant more outside later. And those are some Swiss chard and beans together and my chilies. I have two variety. One is Chinese brown egg variety and this one is jalapeno. And it is blooming already, so hopefully I will have chilies soon. And I also wanted to show you this place. This is a small space in my greenhouse where I have chives and parsley and especially chive, which is perennial, and it started growing really early in a greenhouse. There was nothing outside yet, no grass, no green, nothing, and this chive was already growing in my greenhouse. So I started picking it up maybe in the beginning of May already, and this is quite impressive for Finland, trust me. So if you have some space left in your greenhouse, you can plant chives and some parsley, which also sometimes overwinters in a greenhouse. So you can have your parsley and your chives really early then. And this is actually a perennial bed. And by the way, I have a very interesting video on how this place looked earlier this spring, and I will leave link in description and probably will put it onto the end screen of this video because you have to watch this because in early spring this place looked quite different than it looks now. and the whole garden looked quite depressing, and now it is beautiful, to my opinion. And this is perennial bed, but it also has some edibles in it. And for example, this is a rhubarb, and well, I guess I will pick it up soon and we'll make some pies and some chutney and maybe a jam to have it regrow later. And I also would like to show you this plant. This is a twisted leaf onion, and this is a perennial onion which keep coming year after year. It just getting bigger, better, and it tastes like maybe a mix of spring onion and garlic. Really good taste and really beneficial for health. You can Google it. And this is every gardener's nightmare. Ground elder or bishop with what? You would probably be surprised if I told you that it is eatable. And I eat quite a lot of it. I don't like how it tastes fresh. It's some kind of carrot-like, um, carrot leaf-like taste, and to me, it's a bit harsh. But when it is cooked, it is exactly like a spinach. Trust me, it substitutes spinach really well, and it is quite rich in protein. So, so I'm eating it, and also I'm using it to prepare compost tea fertilizer. So I'm not fighting it in my garden. I just don't let it flower. Of course, it is spreading, but not that bad. Like if I let it flower, and because I'm eating it and because I'm using it, it sort of stops it from spreading really uncontrollably. And this is not this is not about vegetables, but this is an example how nature can be a good designer. These forget-me-nots grew by themselves, and if you don't know, forget-me-nots are plants that biennial. That means they only grow 2 years and then they die. And this is the result of seeding, I guess. And I definitely will let them do it again. Hopefully they will come again and again because I like them. And here's my potato patch, which I showed in my previous video. You can find it right after this video if you saw videos by the most recent, and I will leave link in description as well. So as you can see, potatoes are already coming, so I will have to mulch them soon. I'm mulching them with the clipped grass. So, and if you're curious why I have such an unusual shape for my potato patch, watch the previous video. This video contains all answers. Well, here I have a strawberry, and this is amazing how modern selection actually works, because this is a normal strawberry which produce normal strawberries, but it blooms with this bright I would say what this color is magenta. Okay, this is magenta. So it blooms with this bright magenta flowers, which is common for another variety, which is the Chilean strawberry. But Chilean strawberry isn't tasteful. So isn't it amazing? It is flowering and yet it is producing strawberries. Also, we have some squirrels and some birds that are also interested in our strawberries. So I don't know if something will remain for us. But anyway, this is beautiful. Hopefully you liked my small vegetable garden tour and you now have an idea how Nordic vegetable gardens look in May. And here is my beautiful lilac, which is now blossoms, and oh, the smell is something otherworldly. And if you did like my video, don't forget to show it. And here's the tour video on my garden where everything looked quite different. And if you're curious about other videos I mentioned in this video, links are in description. See ya.